Welcome to the Convergent Impact Leadership Podcast, where we explore real leadership stories and strategies to inspire meaningful action and purpose. Whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting out, this podcast is here to help you lead with intent, build trust, and strengthen relationships in your organization. I'm Eric Savickas, bringing over 30 years of leadership experience from my time as a retired U.S. Army officer, university instructor, and now currently working as a leadership coach with the fire service. Today, I am joined by Chief Kris Kazian, Chief of Operations at Evergreen Fire Rescue here in Colorado. Chief Kazian brings over 3 decades of fire service experience, having served in leadership roles across multiple states. Before arriving in Evergreen, he served as the fire chief of Windsor Severance Fire Rescue in Colorado from 2019 to 2023, and prior to that, as fire chief in Sedona, Arizona, where he led a complex district spanning over 270 square miles. He began his fire career in the northern suburbs of Chicago, rising through the ranks to deputy chief of operations before retiring from Countryside Fire Protection District in 2012. Chief Kazian holds a master's in organizational leadership, is a credentialed chief fire officer, and has led not only departments, but also statewide and regional fire leadership associations. Beyond his operational expertise, he brings a deep passion for building teams, lifelong learning, and leading with humility. Chief Kazian, welcome to the podcast. I am so glad to have you here with me today.
Great to be here, Eric. That's a pretty impressive intro. I was kind of looking around who's he talking about. So thank you for those kind words. Yeah, it's been a great journey. Hard to believe it's 35 years in the fire service, and
Yeah,
done
35
some
years
really.
is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a lot.
Nope, it's a
Now,
lot.
you and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and we've talked and had conversations, but I'm really interested to dig in deeper and really hear your story and hear some of your thoughts on some of the specific leadership aspects of things. So let's start with your story. What got you interested in the fire service to begin with, and then how have you kept that momentum through 3 decades?
Well, interesting. I have no cool story. I know Tim Sendelbach was recently on and talked about his 1977, Beverly Hills Supper Club, introduction, and his dad being a firefighter and all that stuff. I don't have any of that. I literally worked at a gas station in the center of town back in Illinois, and we had a hospital in town, so all the fire trucks, ambulances would zoom right by as I was, checking tire pressure and checking oil. Like, most people on this podcast may not know that's what we used to do for people. That full service gas station approach really created a good customer service basis for me. But I was really watching those trucks go by and I was like, what are they doing? Where are they going? What is that all about? So literally, I walked into a fire station at 18 years old after I graduated high school and walked in the front door. They had a watch office and a couple of guys sitting there with their feet up on the desk. What do you want, kid? And I said, I don't know. How do you do what you do? That looks pretty fun sitting there on that chair. They said, give me little tips and tidbits and whatever. And they said, we really don't hire people till they're 21, but hey, here's an application. We may have a testing process coming up. And so I, for whatever reason, I don't know, my life at that point was not like starting and finishing things. It was just kind of being an 18-year-old kid. But for some reason, I took that application, completed it, brought it back, even knowing that I probably won't get an opportunity because they said you got to be 21. And lo and behold, they called me a few months later and said, and then they said, if we like you, we might make an exception. That's what they said. I
Okay.
thought, well, who
So
wouldn't
they
like
did
me? Yeah,
let you in at 18, or did you have to wait?
yeah. Nope, they let me in at 18. They call it a paid on call, like, so a volunteer. So I went through and really just joined. I had no idea. I wanted to be a garbage man as my claim to fame. I wanted to be a garbage man. I thought that was the coolest job ever, finding all kinds of stuff on the side of the road and all the just crazy things you'd come across. And that was my childhood dream. And then my second was I was going to maybe consider going into the Air Force. But this fire department thing came up. And so I literally just fell into it. I started the fire academy, like Monday night trainings, basically, and I had no clue about anything. Literally, probably what I always consider to be the worst hire ever is who I would represent. I knew nothing about the fire service. I came in like, tell me about this. I remember one of the first days, like washing my car at the firehouse. Like I pull around back, wash my car. My guy said, what are you doing? And I was washing from the bottom up. I didn't know how to wash a car. I could change the oil. I could figure that out because my full service gas station days, but I didn't know anything about nothing. I had the oldest daughter was at that time was like two, young, started young with my first child. She came to fire academy on occasions when I didn't have a babysitter or and I'm changing diapers while we're learning how to tie knots and hose streams. I mean, I don't know how I got away with what I got away with, but I went through fire academy, EMT, and then paramedic in 18 months. And as I rolled that through in Illinois, you do have to be 21 to be a full-time firefighter. And so I set my course. I just fell in love with it. And I never looked back. I don't, your next part of the question was how do you did 30, how do you stay current and interested over all those decades? I just feel so blessed. I don't even know what to say. I feel like this is the best job in the world. I work with amazing people in all the different locations I've worked in. I just love people. I love helping people. I love serving. And, I found my niche. I just by pure luck. And then my younger brother, followed in my footsteps. And he's also a fire chief and got almost, I think, 30 years in the business. So he probably does have 30 years in the business now. And so we just both, have no fire service history, but both of us must have been in our DNA. We didn't know about it. So
But I imagine, 3 decades plus is impressive, and I'm not discounting that at all. But if it's anything like my time in the military, like it just goes by and it goes by quickly, and you don't even stop and think like I need to grind out another couple of years here, or I need to do this. I mean, you're thinking about your career, but the time itself just happens, right? Like I don't think you would have thought that it would be 30 years, but it has been.
totally. I was a funny story there, Eric, is I was a 20 and out guy. When I started, I told you at 18, I started as a volunteer, paid on call, got hired 12 days after I turned 21, like the youngest you could possibly get hired in Illinois full time. I work with a bunch of really old 40-year-old people. I thought, what is wrong with these people? They're here at 20 years on the job. They're old. They're 40. My gosh. And so I always said 20 and out. And I want to become actually a teacher as I did a lot of public education, enjoyed that. And I want to become a teacher. And I realized that's not a sustainable paycheck. And so when I got my 20 and left Illinois because I said I'm 20 and out, I wanted to be a man of my word and found the Sedona fire chief's job. Great timing. Timing's everything. Yeah, it just goes by in a blink, and now it's like, I don't know, when am I ready? My wife, she'll tell you, I always say, I got 7 more years." And she's like, "You've been saying that for 7 years." I still think I've got 7 years, but
How does a guy in north suburbs of Chicago working in a department for that long make a big change to go to Arizona? Like what would were you looking to leave the state and just change the scenery, or did you see an advertisement for a chief opening in a search and just say, "Hey, I'll throw my hat in the ring here and see what it does," or was it a specific drive to be? I've never been to Sedona. I hear it's beautiful,
it
but
is.
was there a specific drive to get out there?
Yeah, one of the guys that worked on my shift at some point in time always heard me 20 and out, 20 and out. So when I got my 20, he sent me the Sedona job. He goes, "Hey, this looks like a good job for you." And I'm like, "What are you trying to say, buddy?" And so that was really where I found the job. Just again, happenstance. I researched it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, looks amazing." The technical rescue component, which I had worked part of my career as in the technical rescue side of things, had a big wildland component. I had zero knowledge of that. As I researched more and put my name in, there was a huge political challenge going on there. I walked into, again, I walked into a firehouse at 18, the worst possible hire ever. I put my name in the hat for Sedona Fire, and probably the worst possible time you would ever want to apply for a job, and being a new fire chief, a young fire, I was 41 years old, a young fire chief, and the political strife and challenges, recall elections, all kinds of things that were happening in that hiring process. Flag. And I just said, you know what? I'll forever wonder what would have been if I don't take the job if offered. And to be frank, I went into it like I don't think I stand a chance, but somehow I did. And after it kind of dawned on me, like, holy, what did I just do? Like it was too late. Like I can't not. And so I just went like my whole life has been, just go both feet in and give it your best and see what happens. And the rest is history, as they say.
And then didn't stop there, obviously, right? Like you're like, okay, I tackled fire chief at Sedona. Like I said, beautiful area, probably great quality of life, good department. But you're like, no, I need another challenge, and so let's go to Colorado now.
Well, yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, your other question was, was I looking to get out of Illinois? I think everyone's looking to get out of Illinois. If you're from Illinois, you want to leave at some point. So that was one of the impetuses. My wife and I were ready for a change. Life's been interesting and tough, and so us to get a change was certainly a reason to get to Arizona. When I got to Arizona, I had some of the union leadership and, hey, don't unpack your boxes. You won't last 2 years here. Hey, really don't have a whole lot of need for a fire chief. We got this, so just kind of stay out and leave us alone. And turns out that they really hadn't had a fire chief last more than 2 years in their 50-some-year history. I lasted 7, so there's some dog years in there. I decided, that the accomplishments and the things that I wanted to do as a leader were done, and it was time to move on. I think as a leader, it's important to sometimes know when your effectiveness is it's at its peak and in your prime, so to speak, and
Hmm.
when you stay too long. So at 7 years, I thought it was probably time to turn the reins over and to look for something else. One of my other daughters had moved to Colorado, and so I looked, just started even looking around, and I told my old boss from Illinois where she was living, and he said, "Well, my niece, who I knew when she was growing up, she works in that town, and they're looking for a fire chief." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I looked it up. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is a perfect opportunity for me." Put in for the job and ended up in Windsor. So again, timing is everything. It's been everything in my career, and it was a perfect spot for me. We love Colorado. My wife and I are now liking adventure. Apparently, we'd like to move around and do things and just not be static. I can tell you, my kids are amazing kids because we moved around so much and did things. I had to meet new friends and acclimate to new areas. I think it builds some character in some ways, toughs you up. It's just created some resilience in my kids and in my wife and I, and then me as a leader, and new challenges and just trying something new. So it's
So
part of
with
leadership.
all of those new challenges throughout your career and different positions and big moves out of state, so on and so forth, I imagine that leader Kris Kazian from Illinois looks different to some degree from fire chief leader Kris Kazian, Sedona to now Evergreen. Is that true? And if so, what are some of those things that shaped that evolution of the leader you are today?
Well, I think, yeah, definitely. I'm not the same. I mean, I think of some of the things I did somewhere in my career. I'll just leave it at that. The statute of limitations is probably over on most of them. Uh, yeah, again, I wasn't the great hire. I'm not sure I was a great employee in some of my years. So being realistic, that knowing that there's no one's perfect, and so as a leader, having some grace with people that sometimes have challenges in their life or need the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes some people really gave me the benefit of the doubt in my career, and I'm forever grateful for that. And so I've passed that along. Absolutely. I mean, 20-year-old Kris Kazian versus a 55-year-old Kris Kazian is definitely a different dude. From a leadership perspective, though, your question was, yeah, I think you just learn things, and I think in my mind, my example of that really is when I was a lieutenant or firefighter rather, and we worked for somebody, and we made every decision we could possibly make in a split second. We knew where we were going to go, what line we'd pull, how we'd make this rescue, all these things we'd do. And then when I became an officer, it changed dramatically because you're not just calling the shots from the cheap seats. You got responsibility. And then as you move up from lieutenant to captain to battalion chief to deputy chief to fire chief, those roles and responsibilities absolutely change. And having a realistic expectation of how you need to respond. And then politics, not the left and right politics, just the general politics of navigating society today is way different than it was in all those. And what people expect, the internet and the role the fire department plays, post 9/11 to 2025 looks different, and
Hmm.
having ridden those waves is absolutely different. And so if you got the only thing that's constant is change, right? So you got
Yeah.
to be able to maneuver and change your style to where you're at, to what the organizational needs are. Some want strong leadership, some want someone that's just going to be there and keep the wheels moving. And you got to know where your role is at and in order to be effective. And so yeah, I'm
Well,
definitely way different.
not only those big changes that happen and the things that occur over time, but I think our leadership is also very much affected by the day to day stuff, the grind. Like we probably all start our days saying, I want to be this best version of myself, and I've got this knowledge and these skills, and I think at least I know good leadership principles and I want to apply them. But then you get into the grind of the day and there's meetings and emails and calls in your profession and all sorts of things. And then you get done with the day and you're like, man, I totally blew that today, right? Like I could have been better or I should have been better. And obviously hindsight is more clear, but like we're not always the best versions of ourselves as leaders. And I think it's important to recognize where we can grow and improve, but also that we are going to make mistakes at times. What do you think hearing that?
For sure. Again, as an eager young fire chief, I had so many dreams and aspirations. They'd be, fixed with a snap of a finger. Everyone would follow, and it doesn't happen that way, right? Nothing happens according to plan. The timeline is always wrong. I think it took me all the way to get to Windsor, to realize that my to-do list that it's going to get done. I'm going to do all these things. I have a belief that your to-do list is there in perpetuity. I believe in flexibility, and when the day changes and someone walks in my door as the fire chief and says, "I got to talk to you, chief," or "I need some time," short of some major deadline that has to happen, then you need to just build a trust. "Hey, listen, Eric, I really can't talk to you right now. Can we catch up tomorrow? How about after 4 o'clock? I got to get this report done." 99% of everything else typically can wait. And if I don't, my I don't say success, but my style, and I think has worked well for me, has been, "Eric, what do you got?" And care about why you're coming into my office and what you need and how I can be of assistance to you. So that we build that rapport, we build that trust. And as a fire chief, my job is to make you successful.
Mm,
And so I realized that then I would stay till whatever time to finish up those things on my to-do list. I started just going, "Hey, if I get one thing done on this to-do list this day or this week, that's a success." But the 6 people that came in that needed some help, that needed guidance, that needed leadership, that needed some mentoring, if I don't leave time for that, and I don't have a bullet point on my checklist or my to-do list for that, you gotta be natural at that. You gotta let that just happen. And I found that to be more successful because you're genuine, you're open to people. It's not like, "Oh, yeah, I'm looking at my watch. Are we done yet, Eric? I told you like, if you need help, that's what I'm there for." And I found that to be, one of my keys to success is being available and present for people.
and that's a good segue because I did want to talk about trust more. That is the theme this month in some of my materials is how do we as leaders build and maintain trust. You described pretty eloquently there what your core feeling is about how to extend and be a trusting leader or a trusted leader. What other day-to-day things go into trust for you?
Well, I think, again, being genuine is first and foremost. And when you're something that you're not, all the time, it's very difficult to keep that up. So I think first, when people see you as genuine and caring, I care about people,
Mhm.
like to a fault at times. I mean, I can think of just dozens of times where I've sacrificed, and maybe at the end of the day wrongly, but that's just the way I'm programmed, and it cost me other things that were painful in some situations. So being present, being genuine, being I taught some people back in the dam going back to Illinois, and one of the now fire chief at Countryside would tell you when he was an up and coming firefighter, it was consistency. You got to be consistent with
Mm,
people so they know where you're coming from. That builds trust. If they know you're about to hit, the one thing I don't like or whatever, that they're gonna manage around that. But you can mess trust up so quickly just by a word or an action.
mhm,
And if people don't know you and don't know you're genuine and you care, and so sometimes I'll get a little animated, or someone will hit my hot button, whatever that might be, and I'll respond with a quick response, and it may be terse to some folks, and they might take that as well. You're not very nice, and you got to realize, like, you got to come back and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry. You caught me at the wrong moment.
mm.
I'm not perfect," and walk it back. And I think most people, not most, some people will just not walk it back, and they'll just say, "That's the way I am. If you don't like it, then too bad." And it's not the kinder, gentler society we live in today that I'm placating to. It's humanity. You got to be a kind human. And I'm at my home office. I'm not in my work office, but I got a sign that's right behind my desk that it says, "Be nice or leave." It's pretty straightforward. I need nice people to work in the environment that I'm in. We can get through everything else, but if you're not nice, I can't teach that. I can't demand that. You were brought up in a cave somewhere, and that's not my fault. But I want you to be nice because I can work with nice, and we'll get
Yeah.
through everything together. That's part of the building the trust, I guess, is that foundational piece. And then the second half of that is, okay, we can do all those things, but you also have to produce. You can't just have that fluffy stuff. You actually have to be able to do and know. And I feel like I've spent a lot of time in my career learning what I don't know. When I went to Sedona, I mean, there's no fire chief handbook. There is a fire chief handbook. It's like this thick. You don't want to read that. So you want to just be able to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna make mistakes. Can we have some grace here?" And pay it forward. When people make mistakes, you don't, but and holding people accountable. I was in Sedona my first week, and I had to go fire somebody in my first week. Union negotiations in the seventh day, and budget put together in the fifth day or whatever. It was like the worst 2 weeks of my life, but it set the tone because I was able to execute, do, and set the tempo for what I did know and what I was capable of. And it set the path for the next 7 years. So
I think when we speak about trust and we throw the word trust around, sometimes people just take it more superficially, right? Like it's a thing that exists out there, this nebulous trust thing. And if I do X, then trust is going to be better. If I do this other thing, then trust may be degraded. But trust, right? And we keep throwing around trust, build trust, etc. I was listening to Simon Sinek, I believe it was, recently, and he was saying that really trust is about people's perception of, am I going to get hurt here or not? Right? Do I feel a sense of safety? And he's not necessarily talking about, even though a lot of what we do in the fire service has to do with physical safety, right? If you don't hold the ladder, is the ladder going to fall and am I going to get hurt, right? Do I trust you to do the thing that you said you've got my back with, right? But a lot of it has to do with psychological safety. And am I going to get equally hurt, not physically, but equally in a way where, let's say, as a leader, you didn't follow through with something that you said you were going to do, or you didn't have my back, or you're playing favorites with other people, or you're not showing up consistent like you said. That's when people also get hurt. And so I think it's really, for me at least, a light bulb moment came on. Instead of just talking about this nebulous trust thing, really connected to what do we really mean here? And what we really mean is people want to be safe.
yeah, and so I when I'm listening to you speak, and when I think about what I just answered in the last question, part of that really to me is the vulnerability, and
Mm.
and just when you want to build that trust. If you're the know-it-all, you're the smartest person in the room, if been there, done that, even if you have, it's how you present that. And so I think of some of the people that I've worked with or heard speak or look at mentors, you start talking to some of them and they've done some things. And that for some people that's the first thing is, hey, hi, I'm Kris Kazian. I leap buildings in single bound or whatever the Superman does. If that's how they present themselves as they introduce themselves, like you're like, interesting. So being vulnerable enough to the humble, vulnerable, they're definitely different pieces, but they kind of have a similar vibe to them. To me, I think you need to be vulnerable, and people want that deep connection. I think, at least in the fire service. I don't know if if I'm a barista at the coffee shop, do I really have a deep connection with my fellow barista, or are we just slinging coffee for the day and we joke and have fun? In our world, we really have that deep connection, living with each other for 24 hours or 48 hours at a crack, besides the holding the ladder, crawling down a hallway. My biggest miscalculation, I think, was when I went from Illinois to Sedona and what I brought with me. I thought I brought a pretty solid toolbox with a lot of experience and a lot of just things that I did, and people that knew me in Illinois and knew the things that I did. I thought it was right behind me. I thought it was on my shoulder. I thought they could read the manuscript or something, and I really miscalculated how I had to rebuild all of that. They just assumed, and I say they in the collectiveness, but generally speaking, that I didn't know a thing about firefighting, or I'd never crawled down a hallway. When I start, looking to like, hey, Eric, we're like, we got this.
Hmm.
Well, I didn't work a trade on Christmas for you so you could have your first holiday with your new child. I didn't hold that ladder where you would have fallen down. I didn't crawl down the hallway with you. And so I miscalculated how much that really played into the trust and the respect and coming into a new place and having to build that all from scratch. Even if they called the old place up and, oh, he's done it. He knows his stuff. I don't know it there. I haven't shown you. And so you really start with a fresh slate. Uh, it was challenging for me for a while, to get there.
Has to do with building strong relationships, because then the trust through that relationship is there, and all the other things that you mentioned. But what I want to ask you specifically about with relationships, and I know they are strong because in the fire service, 1/3 of your existence is living, with your crew, 48 hours at a time. But how do you find the balance with those relationships where there is no bias or perceived bias? There's no perceived favoritism, right? Like if you and I had a strong relationship and it was such that, when we weren't working, we went out and got beers together and everything, and I was one of your battalion chiefs and we were tight. Well, there's two other battalion chiefs that might be like, well, I wonder if that means when the next promotion comes around, Eric's getting preference, or if there's a decision on taskings or delegated work or whatever, if we're going to get screwed, back to the trust, right? That's that psychological safety. If we're going to get screwed here and Eric's going to get the sweet deal because he's tight with the ops chief. So how do
Yeah.
you find the balance in relationships where they're strong, they're meaningful, they're personal, but they're consistent and not with that favoritism?
Well, that's a great question. And I had this experience early on. I literally was a lieutenant, with like 4.5 years on the job. Great friend of mine, sadly committed suicide, unrelated to story, but so I think of him, I just kind of go back to that's my connection to him. But great friend of mine had a real hard time coming to work on time. He just couldn't quite figure out how the clock works, I guess, and pushed it to the limit and was late all the time. And in Illinois, where we're at, that was a big deal. We had a very strong expectation to be to work on time. I mean, most places probably do, but, and I had to write him up. I said, dude, here's the policy. You're late the third time. The third time's a write up, whatever it was, going back 30 years now. And he's like, I thought you were my friend, man. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I am your friend, but if that is going to play into this situation that you can't get to work on time, then I guess we're not friends and we're going to have to go a different direction. And so that set the boundaries pretty early for me on how that works.
And
I
how
had
did it
someone
turn
else.
out?
Well, he got better at telling time. I'll go with that. Um, and we managed. There was probably some strain on his, not understanding, like why it would be like that. I think ultimately, but in the end, it was clear to me, like I got a job to do, and if you're going to make it difficult for me, that I'm more happy at this point to be your boss than your friend, if that's what you're going to do, because you obviously weren't, going to do that. And I'm extrapolating that he was a
Sure.
great man, and a good friend, and
What's
miss
interesting
him
when you
dearly.
have these conversations with people about where the line is and how sometimes as you promote through the ranks, it does get lonelier, right? And it's not a loneliness that you're not around people, because certainly you're around people all day long. It's a loneliness that your peer group gets smaller and smaller, and the folks that you can then go have beers with, or you can have those personal off-duty relationships, get smaller and smaller. And it's interesting, when I talk to people about this, I was just at a conference in Chicago a couple weeks ago doing a session on presence, and this subject came up, and the response was, I know where, people are pushing back saying, I know where the line is and I am not crossing that line. And my reply to that was, it doesn't matter, right? You don't have to do anything wrong. You don't have to cross that line. But as soon as somebody on your team has a perception that things are a bit different now, or the boss has favorites, even if you're not doing anything wrong and everything's above board, why create an environment where people are thinking, I'm going to get screwed here now, or things aren't going to go in my favor, right? Like, why not just stay away from that? So I guess,
You certainly
yeah,
gotta be careful. I agree with both of your statements there with how your class felt a little bit. I mean, I certainly have relationships with people in different ranks and roles and responsibilities, and I don't know that I'm good at it, but I really try to be intentional at it and say, "Hey, we wanna go play golf. I'm all in. You want to talk a little bit about work? We can shoot the breeze about whatever we're shooting the breeze about. But if you're going to try to leverage that relationship to get the inside track on something, then, then we're going to draw the line. And in some ways, I feel like some people that just for my own personal, like, I almost feel like it's almost they're at a disadvantage having a relationship with me where they're not going to get special treatment. They're actually going to get a little bit harder treatment or because
sure.
I'm want to be very careful, and that may not be fair to them. It's not grossly unbalanced, but I never want to give that perception of if you're buddies with me or whatever, you're going to get the good assignments. You're going to get the I try to be really fair, and you got to have hard conversations when you have to tell you, hey Eric, I'm really sorry that you don't want to get switched to B shift, but we're moving you to B shift. I don't want to work there, and that guy who's other we have a job to do, and that's where you're going to go. And if
Yeah.
you want to try to
You just
leverage
don't
that,
want you just don't want the other people to be thinking, "Man, I guess I better take up golf now so I can, have that relationship."
you're exactly right. So if everything looks like it happens at the golf course with the chief, and it's funny we talk about that in Sedona, there was a golf with a bunch of people, and some people got promoted
Oh,
unrelated to me whatsoever. And so I
yeah.
remember one guy saying, it kind of got through the grapevine that, yeah, this guy thinks that if he ever wants to get promoted, he's got to take up golf and start golfing with you. And I was like, sure, if that's what they think, then you should take up golf and get promoted because that's your end state goal. But I don't think it's going to have anything to do with whether you get promoted or not.
Yeah.
And so that's really funny that we just kind of went there. That just popped in my head.
Let's shift a little bit and talk about some other things related to people. You've mentioned before in our previous interactions the importance of being humble and admitting when you make mistakes. Is there a time that you can think about where humility made a difference in your leadership?
I I think it makes a difference in every day of my leadership, personally. It's not a matter of one time when I had to be humble this moment to navigate a challenging situation. I think humility is there's not an on-off button per se. It's who you are, how you carry yourself, and what you do. I think we may all get moments of bravado and kind of self-grandizing moments or something happens. I'm I'm the first one to be so excited we hire and did great work or like just the excitement and when we get to go to work and do the things that we love to do. But I also love I have the same love and passion for going to a medical call with a lady who fell or who has a rectal bleed or something. Like I get to go to work, I get to go help someone, I get to make a difference, whether it's on the big stage or a little stage. And that's just my belief, and that's the humility part of what we're here to do. We're here to serve people. And I don't know if there's a better or more noble opportunity in this world to serve people, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a barista for that matter. It's the same. You're serving people, different capacities, whether I get my latte correct or I get my appendix, removed properly. I want the best of the best in both of those
Yeah.
scenarios. I don't drink coffee, so I guess I wouldn't get a latte, but don't hold that against me. I'm probably the only firefighter that doesn't drink coffee or have a cool mustache. So
Well, there's still
So
time.
humility is that it's to me talk about Clifton strengths, right? And one of my top Clifton strength is winning others over, the woo. It's you people like you meet people and you just become instant friends and you make connections and all of a sudden you realize that you know this person who knows that person. That's just like an innate quality to me, and it's the humbleness to me that you want to open up and just say, "Hey, how do I know you?" or "Where did you grow up?" or whatever, and want to know people, not because I'm making small talk, because I want to. If I'm spending time talking to you, I want to know something about you and how we can mutually benefit from this moment. And that's the relationship piece that's so important. It ties into humility, and just being people. And I know people. Oh, you're a firefighter. You're a fire chief. You got to be. I don't know, dude. I went to bed last night, woke up this morning just like you. I got tons of problems in my life, just like you. I've got tons of great things in my life, just like you. We're all the same. And I don't care if you're a firefighter or the barista or the lawyer or the doctor we talked about. you got a job to do. And thank goodness there's a lawyer, there's a doctor, there's a barista, and there's a fire chief.
The woo, I'm thinking about woo now. First of all, it took me forever to connect that it was actually an acronym, winning others over. Like, I just thought it was a word, but I think the Gallup and Clifton Strengths people need to update it because that's what the kids these days call the Riz.
I'm going to look up the Riz. Okay, I got to look up the Riz now. So you're up. I'm outside my scope.
I'm old, so
You're
I don't
cooler
know.
than me.
But let's bring it home to where you are now at Evergreen. What are the things that are currently your focus there in the department?
Man, I tell you what, your career can take some interesting curves and turns and unexpected things. I've had my share of those, whether it was leaving Illinois and popping into Sedona and finding that path, making my way to Colorado, ending my time at Windsor Severance in a way, in a situation that I wouldn't have planned. But every door that closes, another one opens is the mindset. Hey, take the cards you're dealt and move forward. Um, I'm now in Evergreen as the ops chief, working in an amazing organization where volunteerism is at its low across the country in so many fire departments. We're rocking almost 100 volunteers. Our whole organization, between the wildland division, the EMS division, the admin staff, the maintenance fleet, like we're at about 160 people strong. It's a fairly decent sized organization for what some people might think is a small town in the mountains. We're running 3,000 calls almost for 911. We're pushing another about 18 to 2,000 community paramedic calls. So we have a robust and amazing community paramedic program. I got highly engaged volunteers. I'm creating a culture. What I think the crux of your question is I came into an organization that was all volunteer. They said, "Hey, can you drive a truck?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did 20 years ago." And so I pop in a truck and I feel like I did it yesterday. I'm driving the ladder truck. I'm driving engines. I got to work the next Friday and Saturday, 12 hours each day covering for a guy that's off, running calls. I'm the cook, the bottle washer, the everything kind of person. I've worked for a great fire chief, work with some great peers and my other division chiefs. But the part that really keeps me going that I didn't expect is we decided about a year ago, actually a year ago yesterday, career people started in our organization on the fire side. We have career EMS, and so I had to build a culture of how to engage career fire into a staunch volunteer system. And for a lot of folks that might watch this, that typically does not go well. There's lots of pain and consternation. We have been certainly had pinch points that we've had along the way and some challenges and some folk, but no mass exodus of people. People are really engaged. We're really working hard to integrate these two worlds and make a true combination department. And to be at the tip of that, helping build the team, the folks that we hired, the initial hires have been just amazing. We're thinking about looking at hiring more people in the near future, and so it's thriving. And it's just something I thought I'd be really working a lot harder at. It's hard, let me tell you. It's hard and a lot of work, but it's fun, hard work. And it's in an organization that wants to do right and do good. And so I'm having the time of my life doing this. I'm working my tail off. That part is tough. My wife keeps saying, "How many years?" And I say 7. She goes, "I don't think you can do this for 7 more years at this pace, buddy. You will dwindle out at some point." So you can see the gray hairs are coming in a little bit,
Yeah,
but not as bad as one might think. So it's been amazing. I
it
love what I'm
sounds
doing.
cool.
It's just different. And it's
And
a
it
whole new
sounds like
thing.
it sounds like even though it's taking a lot of time and maybe even exhausting, you're getting to do some of that stuff that you were passionate about, 30 years ago, right? In the engine and being on fire and doing stuff. It might take some more motoring each morning to keep it going, but it sounds cool.
It's really cool. And we're in Evergreen I work is it's a significant wildland risk. So we've got like that part keeps me up at night. We've got a great wildland division that handles kind of that part, but it certainly crosses over into my world. So trying to make sure we're proactively working at that, having just great relationships with my peers and my boss, our board, and really trying to drive the organization forward. I dream to do as far as my leadership side of me and my passion and everyone's just good people. Like at the end of the day, and so when you surround yourself with good people, it makes it a lot easier, far more tolerable and engaging. And that's what leadership is about. If leadership wasn't hard, then everyone would do it. And leadership is not for everybody. And some
It
people
is
have tried.
hard.
Yeah, leadership is
And
hard.
that brings me to my last question here. Speaking of leadership being hard. So I try to think of a question to stick the landing in each one of these episodes. The question I have for you to stick the landing is, with leadership being hard and there's a burden that comes with it and a lot of weight sometimes. How do you recenter, or how do you stay grounded when things may feel like they're beating you down and you're not at that moment the best version of yourself like we talk about? What do you do?
Well, I get an F for this if I was getting a grade. First of all, I really like to frame it with the life work balance. So the common
Okay.
term is work life. I think that's backwards. So I think first start with life work balance and try to frame it that way. Life comes first, work comes second. Doesn't mean I've actually followed that moniker, but that is to me the mantra we set forth. I don't do well at this. I made some good life decisions. It'll be like 3 years. I quit drinking 3 years ago. That's been a huge change, just from coping and my clear headedness and good decisions and all kinds of things. So that's probably just self care and taking care of yourself that way has been a huge change. Eating healthy, certainly one that is wise. I don't always eat as healthy. My wife might watch this, so she works on me every day, and I do 85% of what she says, which I think is a pretty good score. She might disagree. And then, I love to golf. My wife and I love hiking. So getting out, just being out in nature, my kids, my grandkids, trying to connect with them as, they live in different states. And so it's tough to do, but being connected to them and just really trying to find a way to separate. And it's not easy. So I don't have a magic bullet on that, but
No, I
we
think
got
it's
to
all
be
good.
better at it. We got to be
No, it's
better at it.
all good stuff. And as you were mentioning those things, I was mentally going through a checklist in my mind saying, man, I could use that. I could use that. My coping mechanism is rocking back and forth in the fetal position in the bathtub. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um
There's a visual for you, everybody.
all right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights. And clearly, and it totally came through in this conversation, you've got a commitment to building strong teams and relationships and trust in any of the organizations and all of them that you've worked through. Your leadership across all of those organizations and your current organization now at Evergreen continues to make a meaningful impact. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure your firefighters do and your communities do as well. For our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, please share it with your team or anyone who might benefit from these leadership takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe to the Convergent Impact Leadership Podcast and leave a review on your favorite platform. For more information and leadership resources, visit convergentimpact.com. And as always, until next time, lead well, take care of your people, and keep setting the example.